When it comes to Matthew 13, reading from verse 53 to 58, he came to his hometown and began teaching them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers?" So as Jesus is in his hometown and he's in the synagogue teaching, the people recognized him for, this is the carpenter's son, son of Mary, and he's performing these miraculous signs. They recognize the power, the wisdom he's speaking, and they find it kind of odd that, this is just an ordinary guy. Where does he get this power from? Verse 55, is this not the carpenter's son? Is this not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? Is this not just an ordinary man? So they don't recognize him as God, and these powers coming from God. And his sisters, are they not all with us? And where did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. And that's interesting that, when people are shown the gospel, they're shown the power of Jesus, they don't always embrace it, they don't always deny it, but often there's opposition to it. The gospel is offensive. It's a challenge to our hearts, and so they took offense. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household." And that was a saying of the day. And familiarity breeds contempt. It's basically when you get used to having someone around you and you're sort of familiar with them, you don't recognize sometimes what they're doing and the power they have. But Jesus, interesting to use the word, he's a prophet. And with Jesus, we don't often talk about him in the fulfillment of as a prophet, but he's actually a fulfillment of not only the kingly office, the priestly office, but also the prophetic office. And so in every way, he is greater than the prophet, priest, and king of the Old Testament. And so he is God's spokesman. He is the Son of God, speaking on behalf of God to his people, and a perfect prophet in that sense. And so a prophet is not without honor except in his own town and his own household. And he did not do any miracles there because of their unbelief. It's interesting that, because of their unbelief, because they doubted, the miracles dried up. Miracles don't bring people necessarily closer to God. They should do, if you think about it. If you think how God has worked in our own life, amazing answers to prayer, it should strengthen our faith. But when it comes without faith and unbelief, even Lazarus and the rich man, Abraham's bosom, he says, "Look, let me go back." And they see someone raised from the dead, and then God's response is, even if someone is raised from the dead, they won't believe. And we see that the miracles, people come for them, they get fed, and then they turn away. It's not necessarily always the answer. And so the miracles, he did not do many more miracles because of their unbelief. I just want to compare this to the account in Mark, which is very similar. Jesus went out from there, came to his hometown. This is Mark 6 verse 1, and his disciples followed him. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many listeners were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? And what is this wisdom given to him? And such miracles are these performed by his hands? Is not this the carpenter's son, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Jesus said to him, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own hometown and among his own relatives and his own household." And he could not do no miracle there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and he healed them. And here we see just a couple of people were healed, but generally the miracles dried up. And he wondered at their unbelief, and he was going around the villages and teaching. Isn't it sad that Jesus can be amongst them? They can see the power of Jesus, they recognize the wisdom, and yet they reject Jesus. And so we mustn't grow cold. We can also fall into the era of going through the motions and forgetting the power of Jesus, forgetting the importance of our salvation and the privilege of being saved. And we can also become too familiar in that sense. And so, and the other side is when we do preach the gospel, don't get offended. People will take offense to it. They will reject it. But let's keep on being faithful, because there are those few that will respond and see and have their eyes opened. Amen.